Hello, friends. So today, a little bit of a technical one for you learning tech geeks out there. And this is about potential use cases for conversational AI assistants in the workforce and how you can build some of these and look at the architecture of building AI applications. So this is just a top level overview. I'm not going to go too geeky, but I think there's a couple of really good use cases for conversational AI assistants in the workforce. One of those is an onboarding AI system. So I'm going to talk you through what the backend architecture looks like of creating a conversational assistant that pulls in specific data sources to answer questions for users, uses tools, and also can have memory, so it can remember any conversations it has with a user. And we'll also look at channeling that through a large language model. So first of all, for the geeky ones out there, this is what is called a RAG process, or a retrieval augmented generation. So basically what that means is optimizing a large language model like one of these, so it can reference a data source like one of these, and then basically it uses that data source instead of or before looking at its own internal training data if it has any to give a response. So basically what we're saying is we can power ChatGPT with one of these as a data source, or all of these as a data source, and then that will answer questions from users as a conversational assistant. I think onboarding is one of those things that's really difficult for companies both to manage and for new people both to surface the right data that they need. Yes, you could probably go out and get a huge, large language model if you're a gigantic company that's got loads of money. But I think the real power in these is looking at building specific apps for specific use cases. And as I say, a conversational assistant to help new starters on board over a 100-day period can be quite beneficial. So let's break down how this works. If we were to build an onboarding AI assistant, basically what we look at is what are the data sources that we need to feed in to answer questions and give those users the best information. So you might have that on PDFs in Excel, Airtable, Notion, whatever document management device you're using. You can upload all of that data source to basically be the one source of truth, if you want to call it like that. So what will happen is your conversational assistant will route through a large language model to that data source to retrieve information from there to answer users' questions. What you can also do is add in tools. So tools could be anything from connecting to the internet, using calculators, other very basic stuff that you can add in there. You may not want to have the tool section on this, but it's completely optional. What isn't optional is the memory or a vector store. So basically what that means is that the memory will store all of the conversation history of the individual in one thread. So it's not like when you use ChatGPT now and it forgets who you are, or other AI tools, you have to keep reminding it who you are, what you do, etc., etc. It will remember that conversation history. So you could have a conversation on day one and then go back on day 10, and this assistant would still know, who you are, what you do. It remembers that information and remembers the conversation. So that's a huge plus, especially if you're a newbie and you're trying to figure out what you need to do over the next stage of your time onboarding. Then what we do, once we're really clear on our data sources, what tools do we want, putting that memory in place for our vector store, is then looking at the large language model we want to use. You've got loads. You've got the big ones, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Copilot. You've got open source ones like Mistral. I'm not here to advise you on what to use. That's going to depend on the size of your organization and what you're looking to achieve there. Of course, only use enterprise approved tools. But what you'd be doing here is using a API. So imagine an API is kind of like a bridge between tools. So it allows them to talk to and work with each other for you non-techie people out there. What we can do in a prime example, and I'll leave a link to this under this video on my website. You can see an example of a retrieval assistant on one of my websites where I've built something similar to this, which uses ChatGPT 4 to retrieve data from a particular data source to answer questions on some of my work. Once you've done all this, and it is pretty simple, to be honest, to actually build this and actually build it on top of AI, then you can have this nice, funky conversational assistant. Of course, how you choose to present that assistant is up to you. You can build a very slick UI with a no-code tool, or you can go into coding mode if you've got those capabilities to do it. The reason why this can be a better option than just going for a huge large language model, as I say, is because you've got the functionality to really refine and optimize the power of a large language model to a specific data source for a specific purpose. Now, people might say, oh, yeah, you can do this on ChatGPT. The problem is they are locked down to ChatGPT's ecosystem. If you build an app like this, with a different app building tool, or like me, you use LangChain to build these, what you can then do is have that embedded into any part of your estate as an organization. You're not restricted to building those GPTs in ChatGPT's ecosystem, pretty much. So look, I hope that's helpful. In sum, onboarding AI assistants, pretty cool. If you're interested in seeing a prototype of this, let me know. I'll put it together. I'll run a demo at some point. If your company is interested in having something like this, again, hit me up. We can chat. If you like these, drop a comment. I've got a couple others in mind as well to show what you could build from an assistant standpoint, from a more technical overview. If that's something you enjoy, of course, I will keep doing that. So look, I hope it's been helpful, and I will speak to you in the next one.